Close your eyes, gentle listener, and imagine a world veiled in twilight where dreams dance on the edges of sleep. In this quiet realm, there often exists a silent companion, a whispering shadow that lingers just beyond our sight. It's not a monster, but a gentle unease, a small voice that sometimes whispers doubts and fears, keeping us from the fullest, most peaceful sleep. Tonight, we journey with a young spirit named Elara, who knew this whispering shadow all too well and discovered a profound, ancient secret to transform it into the softest starlight. Elara lived in a quaint village nestled beside the Whispering Woods, a place of ancient trees and hidden wonders. Yet, for all its beauty, Elara often felt a strange, quiet hesitation. The whispering shadow wasn't a fierce beast, but a subtle weight, a what if that kept her from exploring the deepest parts of the woods, from climbing the highest peaks, or even from joining the merriest dances in the village square. It was the fear of the unknown, the fear of making a mistake, or simply the fear of not being brave enough. She longed for the lightness she saw in other children, the carefree abandon that seemed to elude her. Each night, as she lay in bed, the shadow would lengthen, making the simplest of tomorrow's tasks feel like a daunting challenge. One day, feeling particularly weighed down by her quiet fears, Elara wandered deeper into the whispering woods than she ever had before. The trees grew taller here, their branches interwoven like a cathedral ceiling, and a hush fell upon the air. As she walked, she stumbled upon a clearing bathed in an ethereal, golden light. In the center, beneath a grand, moss-covered ancient oak, sat an old woman with eyes as calm and deep as a mountain lake. This was Lyra, the weaver of stillness, known to few but revered by the forest itself. Lyra looked at Elara, her gaze soft and understanding, as if she could see the whispering shadow that trailed behind the girl. Lyra beckoned Elara to sit beside her. "Child," she murmured, her voice like the rustling of leaves, "your shadow is but a misunderstanding of where your true power lies." She picked up two smooth pebbles. "Imagine one pebble represents all that is within your control, your thoughts, your actions, your choices. The other pebble represents all that is beyond your control, the weather, what others think, the past, the future. Fear, my dear, often blossoms when we worry about the second pebble, when our thoughts cling to things we cannot change. By letting go of what is not yours to control, you free your hands to shape what truly is within your grasp." Elara gazed at the pebbles, a flicker of understanding blooming in her heart. Next, Lyra spoke of acceptance. "The river flows, the wind blows, the sun rises and sets. These things simply are," she explained. "When we resist what simply is, we create friction within ourselves, and that friction feeds the shadow. But when we accept what cannot be changed, a deep peace settles in. It doesn't mean you like it, but you no longer fight against it." Elara remembered a day when rain had canceled a fun outing and how frustrated she had felt. Now she understood that her frustration was a choice, a resistance to something inevitable. As she absorbed Lyra's words, she felt the whispering shadow behind her shrink, a tiny bit lighter, a little less pressing. Finally, Lyra spoke of the inner citadel. "True strength," she whispered, "comes not from fighting external forces, but from building an unshakable fortress within yourself. This fortress is built with your virtues. Wisdom to see clearly, courage to act rightly, justice to treat others fairly, and temperance to master your desires. When you focus on being the best you can be, guided by these virtues, no external fear can breach your walls. Your inner world becomes a sanctuary." As Lyra spoke, Elara felt a warmth spread through her chest, a quiet resolve, a spark of true courage that pushed against the shadow, making it tremble and recede further. Armed with these ancient Stoic truths, Elara returned to her village, no longer avoiding the paths she once feared. She would face small challenges like speaking up in class or venturing into a less familiar part of the woods, and each time she remembered Lyra's words. She distinguished between what she could control, her effort, her attitude, and what she could not, the outcome, others' opinions. The whispering shadow would sometimes try to reappear, but Elara now recognized it for what it was. An echo, a memory of old resistance, not a present threat. She realized the shadow had never been a monster outside, but a projection of her own misdirected thoughts and worries. With each act of acceptance and courage, the shadow grew fainter, less substantial, until it was barely a whisper at all. And so, one peaceful morning, as the sun painted the sky with hues of dawn, Elara awoke to find her room bathed only in gentle light. The whispering shadow was gone. It hadn't been defeated in a grand battle, but simply dissolved like mist in the morning sun, because Elara had stopped feeding it with resistance and worry. She had learned that true courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the wisdom to understand its nature and the strength to choose her response. From that day on, Elara lived with a newfound lightness, her heart filled with peace and her spirit ready to embrace every wonder the world had to offer, knowing her inner citadel was always there, strong and true.